It'll be 24 to 30 inches at the top. And the hole has to be very, very straight. Drilling 16,000 feet, 15,000 feet into the granite is somewhat of a new process. All of these pieces parts. Drilling very straight, 8-inch diameter into granite. A lot of those are new things. So this is a research project. That's what we're trying to find out. So why would we do this kind of project? Granite, deep burial is being considered for the disposal of nuclear waste. So that's what the project is about, ultimately, is looking at the possibility, doing the research for further studies years down the road for nuclear waste disposal. This project, what it's not, is a nuclear waste disposal project. No nuclear waste involved in the project, no nuclear waste after the project. This is a science project only. The data that are gathered as part of this project will be used in many, many projects going forward over the next decade or more to understand this technology. So this isn't a preparation for storing nuclear waste or disposing of nuclear waste in Spink County or anywhere else. It's just developing the science and the understanding. So why wouldn't we put nuclear waste in Spink County? It's not the right place. There's an aquifer right above the granite where we're looking to drill. That doesn't make it good for nuclear waste disposal. That gets in the way of storing nuclear waste. What it does not get in the way of is us doing our tests. So why Spink County? Why do it here? It's the geology. Simply put, it's the geology. Underneath Spink County is a very stable formation, more than 2 billion years old, that hasn't been disturbed by volcanoes, hasn't been disturbed by seismic, by earthquake, hasn't been disturbed by anything else. So it's very stable, it's not broken up, so it's a great place to drill. I've been an engineer all my life, and when you do engineering development, you start with the easier process first. The easier process is to pick the ideal spot of granite that we can use these tools and procedures to do the drill. We've not done an 8-inch diameter hole, 16,000 feet, very, very straight before. So we're going to develop some new tools, some new procedures on how to do that. The first place to try that isn't in a place that is very difficult to drill. Some place that has a very unstructured rock, a lot of fractures, a lot of problems with water underneath in that deep granite. We're not interested in doing our first drill test anywhere near something like that. We want to start off with the best chance of success. That's why, as we work with our partners, that's why we identified Spink County. Okay? So that's why Spink County, why we're here in Spink County. Other questions that came up the other night was, why would you spend $35 million and not bury nuclear waste in that hole? And that's a good question. $35 million is a lot of money. My dad used to say, you take $1 million here and $1 million there, and pretty soon you've got quite a bit of money. That is a lot of money to spend on a project. But doing this kind of work is very expensive. The equipment that we'll be using, the drill rig costs on the order of about $50,000 a day by the time you get all the pieces put together. So this is expensive work. The whole project is hundreds of millions of dollars to billions of dollars over many years. This is an early step in our research development. We're going to do this test and we're going to learn a lot. And this well will be designed, and these tests will be designed to understand the geology. We have no interest in how the nuclear waste interacts with this geology. That's not what the test is. The test is, how do you drill a straight hole into this granite? How do you test that granite? These are going to be things that we're going to be working on during this project. And it makes sense to do it on this kind of perfect geology, this really great geology, because frankly, it's less costly here. If we go off to some place that is more appropriate for nuclear waste disposal, some place that doesn't have the aquifer, it's going to be more difficult to drill. So the Department of Energy, as they work with us to develop this project, it makes sense to make the first test a more economical test. So instead of spending $100 million drilling where it's going to be really difficult to drill, it makes sense to start somewhere simpler, somewhere easier, where we can do a $35 million project. $35 million is a lot of money. It's still less than $100 million or $200 million. So we're going at it in an economical way. That's the way we do engineering. Another comment is about the federal government and the fact that we don't trust the federal government. What happens when the federal government comes in to take over? Well, there are a number of things that prevent that from happening. The first step is the private landowner that we're going to be working with. And to answer a question, no, we won't identify the specific land because we're just having conversations with a number of folks. And we won't reveal the details about those private conversations because that's a private business interaction with that landowner. And we're going to respect their privacy as we have these discussions. Of course, the information will come out later once we start drilling. And if that landowner wants to release the information about the business deal, that's entirely up to them. But it is a private business deal, so we want to respect those landowners' wishes. So right now, we're talking about an area in the Redfield, in the Tulare area. We're not talking about particular parcels. State law currently prohibits the storage, the disposal of nuclear waste in the state of South Dakota without the governor's approval, the legislative approval. So that is something in the way. Federal law right now does not allow nuclear waste to be stored in a deep borehole. So if you watch the action in Washington, you'll know that those kind of things take time. Simple things take time in Washington. A complex issue like this will take years to develop the legislation to allow that to happen. So that's got to change. The most important thing about stopping any kind of nuclear waste coming into an area are the people in this room. Each one of you have a voice. Each one of you have a phone line to the county commissioners, to other elected officials. If you stand up and say, no, not here, I can assure you, in communication with those folks, that they are going to listen. They are voted in by you. So they are absolutely going to listen. And we've talked to those folks. And we've assured them that, again, there's no nuclear waste involved in this project. This is a science project. And as bad as the federal government is, we may say, let's also remember that there are some good parts of the federal government. Same federal government that we don't trust also provides our military, provides our men and women in uniform, provides money for highways, provides money for crop insurance, provides money for social services. We do have to understand that there are some good parts to the government, and I think later here in a few minutes you'll hear a gentleman from the good part of the government. The governor has also supported the project. There's a letter back there that the governor sent to the Secretary of Energy supporting the research of this project. And that letter said to the Secretary, as long as the project doesn't eventually involve nuclear waste. The Secretary of Energy wrote back to the governor and said, thank you very much for your support. We'd like to consider your state for this research. And yes, Governor, there is no nuclear waste involved in this project. The governor also issued for this meeting a statement that I'll read now. This is from Governor Dalgard. I have previously supported deep underground research at the Sanford Underground Research Facility in Lee and shale formations by the South Dakota School of Mines, folks here in this room. I support the Deep Borehole project in South Dakota because it furthers our state's leadership in underground research with no potential for that location to be used to store or dispose of nuclear waste. South Dakota is a recognized world leader in this underground research area, and I'm proud of our state and the opportunity it has for the potential to continue this legacy of scientific innovation. So the governor is supporting the project as long as it doesn't involve nuclear waste. So a couple of documents back there, things that I just talked about. We have a frequently asked question. If you didn't get a chance to pick it up, raise your hand and some of our project team will get one for you. Okay, there's a lot of questions on there, similar to what I just went through. There's also a Deep Borehole Field Test, a world-class scientific project. Also has information about the project, has contacts information on it. Also back there are the copies of the letter that I just mentioned. The governor's letter to the DOE and the DOE response to that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce our team to you. So these are the folks that I'd like you to come up and chat with after our Q&A section. So up here with me from Battelle is Steve Winberg. Mark Kelly is back there in the blue sweater. PR Massey is right here. Dave Gilligan back there. We're all from Battelle, from Columbus, Ohio. South Dakota School of Mines. We've got Bill Roggentine, Larry Stetler. So would you say a little bit about your South Dakota?
I'm Larry Stetler, Department of Geology and Geological Engineering. South Dakota native, born and raised in Rapid City. Worked in oil field for 8 years and then been in academics for almost 30 now. We are going to hopefully be part of this project, and some of the things we're going to be doing is involved with the testing of the well, looking at the rock itself, the properties of the rock, the strength properties of the rock. There will hopefully be both graduate student and undergraduate student research projects. We will be present at the site. We'll be doing experiments on the rock samples themselves, like pieces of the core and things that you'll see on this table over here. We'll be collecting those from this well, doing tests on them back on the campus, and looking at the science. And that's what our role is going to be.
Thank you, Larry. Also, we have a company called RESPEC south of South Dakota as well. And we have Jay, who is with that company. Jay.
Hi, my name is Nopola of RESPEC from Redfield City. I'm a School of Mines grad. That's probably 90% of people I work with are School of Mines grads as well. Engineering, science, a lot to do with water, geomechanics, a lot of stuff that we're working on in this project, that we hope to work on. Some of the people I work with are from the and I guess I'll say that, I'm excited about the science. I'm kind of a dork. It's pretty neat to potentially be involved in something like this. It's a world-class experiment. And, if I wasn't involved, I'd be monitoring it and looking at whatever the results are. So the potential for me and the other people that I work with in the state to have a part in that, it's really exciting. And I guess I'll just add, as a resident and somebody who's raising the children here, and from some of the stuff I heard last night,
Battelle is managing the overall project, and we're working with South Dakota School of Mines, we're working with RESPEC. And our client, the folks that are paying the bill, is the U.S. Department of Energy. And we have with us Andy Griffith from the DOE.
Thanks, Rod. And I want to thank all of you for coming out here tonight, because I know you all have lives to lead. You've got, jobs to go to, children to take to after-school sports and other events and so on. So we know this is a burden on your time out here in the evening, and we appreciate it. We want to make this valuable to you. So, if you have questions and you walk out the door, then we're not successful. We want to answer your questions. But we're here to provide information. We're not here to tell you what to think or what your conclusion should be. We want you to come to those conclusions after considering the information we give you. So, why are we doing this? Why is this such a big deal? Our nation is facing a major challenge in finding a solution for disposing nuclear waste, high-level waste, and spent nuclear fuel. This project isn't going to dispose of all of that waste that's been generated, or this concept, this technology, but what it might do is it might offer a solution for some small inventories of high-level waste that was produced from the defense programs, those programs that established our strategic stockpile and essentially helped us win the Cold War. But this material is a fairly small portion of the inventory, but if this concept is proven successful, there may be a community out there that would be willing to host a disposal facility. But they could only host that disposal facility if the information shows that this concept is feasible, that it could work. And so we're here to test that theory that it could work in a non-radioactive manner. And the way you do it is just as this team has proposed, but we can't do it without something most important of all. We can't do it without the consent of the community that's going to host this experiment, which might lead to information that could help another community decide that they, in fact, would like to host an actual waste facility. So let me talk a little bit about the consent-based siting process, which is a major initiative that the Department of Energy launched in December. And this is for nuclear facilities that would be part of an integrated waste management system, of which a borehole facility could be a part of that if this is proven feasible. But this also involves interim storage of spent nuclear fuel from commercial reactors, which are too large in diameter and could never fit down a borehole, but they could still be placed in a mine repository, which is also part of an integrated waste management system. And then there's a transportation link that moves the waste from its point of origin to an interim storage site, then to a disposal site, in a way that protects the environment and the public. So a key element to siting any of these facilities is gaining consent from the community willing to host the facility, as well as the state and any affected tribe that's near that facility. How do you get that consent? Well, I can tell you one way not to get it, and that's what our country has done in the past. You might have heard of a project called Yucca Mountain. It is currently suspended. My department suspended all of our actions on that years ago. And the reason we suspended it was based on a commission that was appointed by the President, the Blue Ribbon Commission on America's Nuclear Future. And they reviewed why are we having so many problems finding a solution for managing and disposing of our nuclear waste, our high-level nuclear waste, and our spent nuclear fuel. And they drew a number of conclusions, but one of the key fundamental conclusions they drew is that having a top-down approach where the federal government imposes its will upon a community, a state, an affected tribe, and says, we will do this to you, whether you like it or not, we are going to site this facility here, and we're going to operate it. We believe, I believe, that that is doomed to failure. And I think history backs me up on this. If you look across the world, there are many nations that have learned this lesson, and they've had occurrences of failure where their government said, we're going to site a facility here, and we want y'all to come along. Well, guess what? The world doesn't work that way. And especially, it doesn't work that way in a democracy like our nation. There's a reason why it didn't work in Governor Holland. And so, taking notes from that, we're developing a process that's phased and adaptive, where we gain information, we reach out, we invite communities to learn more about the information that we gain, whether that's a disposal process like a concept like deep borehole disposal, or whether it's siting an interim storage facility for commercial spent nuclear fuel. We want to be able to provide any community that's interested in learning more with what that facility would look like, what kind of operations would it entail, what kind of design features protect them from the hazards of the waste that would be managed there. And they would have to have a deep understanding of what that means to them, as well as, okay, what would they like in return? This isn't about paying anyone off or overly compensating them. They would be fulfilling a national mission, but it would have to come with conditions that should be met in order for them to accept this national mission. And it could lead to improved roads, it could lead to improved schools, it could lead to scientific facilities in their community, it could lead to engineers and scientists moving in with their families and enriching their community. But it could lead to many things, and we don't know what those things are, but we want to explore what that concept looks like. And that's all part of this consent-based siting initiative that we started in December. We've held 3 public meetings around the country, plus a kickoff meeting in Washington in January. We've got 5 more scheduled around the country. And so we're really broad, we want to get input from a broad population of the United States, because we don't have all the answers. We need help, and we appreciate that input. But anyway, what does that mean to this technology, to this concept? Like I said, this is the most important part of our path going forward, because it requires a bottoms-up approach where communities step forward, expressing interest in learning more, establishing and building a relationship with our program, gaining trust, which is absolutely bedrock essential to any success going forward. And we recognize that gaining trust is one of the most difficult things for particularly the federal government to do. Losing that trust is very easy for us to do. So recognizing how things are set against us from the onset is very important. Our eyes are wide open, and we recognize it's not going to be an easy road, but it's a very important road because this mission is so important for our nation. So, how does this project play a role in that? If we are to develop a durable solution for our future, a durable solution to manage the high-level waste and spent nuclear fuel in the country, we need to have a bottoms-up approach to siting any nuclear facility. If this project moves forward and generate data, which, regardless of whether it's successful or not, the data we get from the water chemistry 3 miles down, the geology 3 miles down, it's going to be extremely valuable data. I can tell you that there's international partners to the Department of Energy, as well as other programs beside my program in the Department of Energy, that are just really extremely excited about the prospect of getting access to the data of millions of years old water 3 miles down below the surface here. So this concept, if we test it and we show that it's feasible, this information would be essential to any community in the future that'd be interested in learning about what about borehole disposal. We've got some decent geology here that might be appropriate. We would not know if their geology would work or not without a test like this. So, this is kind of a starting point of a very long process to get where we need to be if we're going to solve this problem and have a durable solution to it. Finally, let me talk a little bit about how we ended up here in Spink County, because there has been some discussion about, this has been going on for years, and there's all these conversations, and somehow there's been some devious plot behind the scenes, and that we've been looking at this spot all along, and I'm here to tell you it's just not accurate. While there was some correspondence between the governor and the secretary some time ago, it was pretty clear at that time we were not ready to compete this work. The way our program works, the way the Department of Energy works, the way the federal government works, is that we value the taxpayers' money, and we don't just hand it to people based on a bright idea that they might have. We had to organize how we could compete this work. And so we had to identify criteria that had to be satisfied. We had to consider what types of geologies would that contractor have to come with their proposal for us to evaluate and say, no, this is a good proposal, or no, this is a bad proposal based on the geology, based on the quality of the team. And so we held that competition last year, and we made the award in January 2016, just a few months ago. And it was awarded to Battelle Memorial Institute. But it did not involve the South Dakota School of Mines and RESPEC. It included other partners. And they had a different site in mind for this research project. And it belonged, that piece of land belonged to the state of North Dakota. And that proposal included documents of endorsement of this project from state agencies. And they've been publicly available, made public by the state. But the community wasn't necessarily involved in the process up to that point. This is a non-radioactive project. We were really excited about it. We awarded it. We made a press release. We said, yay, we awarded this, exciting. Well, unfortunately, the rumor mill in Redfield, North Dakota, latched onto this, and us not having sufficient sensitivity to the deep non-trust of the federal government. Well, we didn't appreciate that sufficiently, and the rumor mill ran wild. And by the time we did get to the local community, no matter what we said, they didn't believe us. They didn't trust us. And at the end of the day, they decided, well, you might think this is a really exciting science project, but we really don't want a part of it. You're going to have to look someplace else. And you know what? We respect that. We honor their decision. They made that decision. They formalized it in early March. And as a result, we started looking at alternative locations because the contract was awarded to Battelle as part of the contract terms that if for some reason a site is determined not to be suitable, that they will work together with the Department of Energy, and they will evaluate other sites. So, after that decision, Battelle started looking around at other sites, and they did reach out to South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. And South Dakota School of Mines and Technology said, hey, we've got some ideas. And so that's why we're here today. Because while this isn't the only site, or this isn't the only area we're looking at, we believe this is a very important area to look at. And we can't do that without having this discussion with you so you know what we're looking at and what this project involves. So with that, I think we've said enough background, kind of teed it up, and we understand you've got questions, concerns, and we want to hear them. So with that, I'll turn it back over.